Hello, everyone, and welcome to the What's Your Everest podcast. My name is Liam Hubbard. I'm an intern here at Everest Strong Coaching, and today I'm co-hosting with Dr. Carla Steingraber, and who is the head of Everest Strong Coaching and a certified mental game coach. Carla is a licensed clinical and sports psychologist who's been working with athletes for nearly 20 years now, of all ages, skill levels, and sports to help improve their mental game. And our guest today is Palmy Lamsam. Palmy is an incredible athlete and exceptional mental health professional. She had a remarkable career representing Thailand's national figure skating team, where she competed in numerous international events and won the Thai national championship 5 times. She is also a recent graduate from Northwestern University, go Wildcats, where she completed a Master of Science in Marriage and Family Therapy. Her therapy as an associate licensed marriage and family therapist are in infidelity recovery, life transitions, reintegration, and most relevant to today's show, family sports psychology. We're so grateful to have you on the show today, Palmy. Welcome to What's Your Everest?
Hi, Palmy. Thanks for
Yeah,
joining us.
yeah. Hi, Dr. Carla and Liam. Thank you so much for having me today.
Well, we would love to hear about the beginning of you as a figure skater. What was it that actually first pulled you in, and how old were you?
Ah, it's a very cute, I think it's a very cute story, but so I want to set the preface first that I was born and raised in Bangkok, Thailand. Uh,
Hmm.
it's a tropical country. We never get
Lots of
snow.
ice, huh?
So yeah, it's hot all year round. It's just hot, hot, and more hot and rain. Um, so winter sport doesn't really exist. It wasn't a thing in Thailand. But when I was like 5 years old, my dad introduced me to this movie called Ice Princess. So it was me and my older sister, 5 years older than me. We were watching this movie and we were just so in awe with the character. And it's a story about like this girl in high school. She's like a physics enthusiast and she was doing this like thesis project to get into Harvard, but her project is about figure skating, like applying physics into skating. And during the process of doing her thesis, she falls in love with the sport and starts training for competition. And I would rewatch that movie with my sister all the time. We did not have ice in Thailand, but we had wooden floors at home. And so what we used to do was we would wear socks and then put baby powder on the floor and then
Oh my
pretend
gosh.
like we were like skating on the ice. So we would call that like floor skating. So I did that when I was like 5, 6 years old, and it was a
Wow.
lot of fun to do that until when I was 7 years old. I went to a friend's birthday party in a shopping mall, and it was hosted at the ice rink that was in the shopping mall. Skating
Oh
was
my
more of
gosh.
like an entertainment, like a recreational thing. So like it wasn't like set in like a separate stadium or something. So this is like just an ice rink in the shopping mall. And I went and I was like, wow, like this is really fun. So I came back home. I told my sister, I was like, I found an ice rink for us. There's an ice rink. And so then we started coming. It was like a weekend activity, like a daddy daughter weekend activity. So my dad would take us to the ice rink. We'd spend the whole day there because it was in a shopping mall. So we'd skate, we'd go out, eat something, and then come back and like spend more time at the ice rink. And as I started skating, spending more time at the ice rink, I started taking lessons with private coaches. And yeah, it just snowballed. It went from there.
Yeah, it's incredible. And at some point, you started training in both Thailand and California. what was that bicontinental lifestyle like when you were just a kid and a teen? Yeah, and at what age did you start doing that?
Yeah. It was it was a very inspiring thing, and I think I was very fortunate to be able to um skate both in Thailand and train in America. So I started training in America when I was 9, in the summer of
Wow.
2009. And that reason being was we had like another senior skater in the ice in the rink, like another Thai skater. She's like 5 years older than me, and if I remember correctly, she got like a scholarship from the International Skating Union, so like the skating organization that oversees like all the skating competitions in the world, um, world championships, Olympics. So they gave this girl a scholarship to train in the United States, at an ice rink that is very well known with many skaters, called Ice Castle International Training
Oh my gosh.
Center up in Lake
For the
Arrowhead
ice princess, right?
for the Ice Princess. And so my parents took me there, and I was very tired, but I had so much fun training there. I got to see so many Olympians, many world class skaters, many national level skaters, like all these amazing skaters from around the world. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I feel so motivated. And then on top of that, I think that motivation and the technique that I got propelled me to like improve even faster, and I was like so hooked onto like, wow, like I'm getting so much better. So then we started going back every year, every summer until I was 13, which is when they sold the ice rink and it closed. So then everybody like dispersed. Luckily, I was recruited by a coach. I don't know if recruitment is like a correct word, but like he definitely took me in and he said, "Hey, like I'm moving down to Palm Springs." And so starting from when I was 13, I would spend every summer and winter in Palm Springs, California, training with my coach in America, and then the remaining time that I was in school, I would be back training in Thailand, all while traveling for competition as well.
Yeah, and it's incredible. I mean, the time commitment, obviously, with that kind of international travel, it just so happens that your sister got into skating also, which doesn't always happen. And so you and your parents had to split time living in different places with each of you. How did that shape you? How did that impact your family?
Yeah. I think I think that I'm just really fortunate that my whole family has been very supportive of my competitive skating career. My sister, unfortunately, like a few years as we started skating, so like a few years in, I think I was 9 or like 10, my sister suffered like a really bad injury where she fell and then she tore her the ligament behind her knee. And
Mm,
so a few years after that, she shattered her ankle from skating and then had to get metal plates inserted in her ankle too.
oh
So
gosh.
she
Mhm.
kind of knew that she wasn't like she started late. Um, she kind of knew that she wasn't gonna be like the next big thing. Like she already knew that, but she really enjoyed skating too. So she then took skating in a different route, and that different route was she became um like an international level judge and technical specialist, which then became really helpful for me as a skater to have the judge's perspective to be able to support me from the sidelines from like a family perspective of like, hey, you're doing good, and at the same time, here are some pointers that you need to remember going into the next competition. um, I was also very fortunate that both of my parents were really supportive with my skating career. My dad uh, is very he emphasizes a lot on having a balanced lifestyle, so he was very on board with me skating, and he always reminded me that I should always have like really good work life balance. I wasn't really working, but like he made sure that like I should be in school, and during the time that I wasn't in school, then I would be skating. And then my mom supported me in a different way where she was very detailed oriented, and so she really instilled the discipline um in being an athlete. All the times that I would spend like doing repetitions at the ice rink, she was always there. And I think I drew like all these, everybody had their own strengths and they just really leverage on those strengths. So when the time came, I would go to training with my mom. This was a time where it was important to be detailed oriented. We were focused. So I was spending a lot of it with my mom. And then when I was at competition, I used to go with my dad, and he was more lighthearted. He would kind of get me in the headspace where I wasn't stressed out about competing, so that I could just
Mm.
trust the training that I did in competition. And then when my dad got more busy with work, he switched to my sister, and my sister brought in this other perspective of, I used to be a skater. I know how stressful it was if we were going to compete. So here's my way of like calming you down before competition. And I think because of all these people in my life leveraging their strengths, um it really set me up to be able to go that far in skating for that long.
And Palmy, a similar question considering how you were managing this unique style as an elite athlete. What did you learn about ambition, sacrifice, and, you could say success rules from your family dynamics?
That's a really good question, Liam. I would say that the biggest thing I learned is that you can't do anything alone, right? It really takes an
Mhm.
entire community to really, an entire community that's supporting you, who's there for you when you're not having your greatest days, and also celebrating the big wins or even the small wins. The small wins are also very important. Um, yeah, I think that a lot of my success for my family that I really learned is that you can't really do things by yourself. It's really pulling from all these strengths around me that made it successful. And I think I also learned that how important it was to balance everything, as much as I was sacrificing a lot of time from school, from family. I think my family really made sure that I had, what I would say, like a normal childhood where I got to go out and play, I got to travel, I got to take breaks, and having that balance really kept me grounded as I was pursuing this elite level in the sport.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And like you were saying, with pursuing this elite level of sport, success is so intertwined with that, you know, culturally, literally when you are at competition. And it can be, it's a big part of any sporting endeavor. So when you're considering how you viewed success when you were younger compared to how you view success now, looking at
Mhm.
that kind of juxtaposition, what do you think your younger self maybe misunderstood about success that you in terms of your current definition?
I think for me, when I was younger, it was very much very result driven. I was very goal oriented, which is great. I was
Mhm.
very laser focused in training, but it came with a cost that I would overlook some of the small wins that I had from a holistic standpoint because I was so focused on getting the result that I want, whether that was I needed to place at a certain placement in order to advance to the final round, right? When you're in skating, if there's like a really big competition, you just go in, there's like 40 something girls, and they take only the top 24. And so it's just, you either make it in the top 24 or you don't make it, and it ends there for you. So I was very driven by my placement. I was driven by my technical score because that was what predetermined what competitions I was allowed to do. And I definitely really focused on what I was missing when I was younger. If I think a really good example is I went to this one competition. I think I was 14. It was about like February of 2014. Now that I'm looking back at it, I skated pretty good, I would say. I there were 12 elements in my program. I did 11 of them and I missed one.
Wow.
And when I was younger, I was so laser focused on like creating like getting to perfection and achieving all these goals that I wanted that the only thing that I focused on was that one thing that I
Mhm.
didn't do. It was like
Hmm.
it was like such a minor mistake. Like everybody, it doesn't matter if you were like a younger skater, if you're like an experienced Olympian, like you will make this mistake at one point. You're gonna miss a jump at one point. And I remember being just so stressed out. I was like, wow, I missed this one thing. It was gonna be perfect and I missed this one thing. And I was so focused on getting to perfection to achieve those goals that I kind of lost the joy and I forgot about the good stuff that I did for the rest of it. Now that I'm much older than when I was younger, and I've also found my way back to the skating world again. I've
Mhm.
definitely taken a more holistic approach where I'm really taking in the contextual factors of what's happening today, what's happening in my life, and really celebrating those small wins that I have. Sometimes that small win looks like, hey, I was really tired today. I like didn't want to get up and I didn't want to go to the ice rink. But I went and I made it work. I might not have jumped, but
Yeah.
there's 2,500 other things that I could work on the ice that makes me happy and I'm also improving. And so as I've grown older, I've started to really realize those small wins that I really should have emphasized when I was younger. And as a result, I think it made me much more happier as a skater. And I definitely feel like I might not jump as much as I did when I was younger, but I can feel the quality of my skating has definitely gone up in a way that I didn't expect from like the younger version of me.
Yeah,
We
definitely. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, you see that, right? So ambitious young athletes often get really laser focused on the results, on the outcome, and they kind of lose sight of the process and the wins or the things that bring them joy or the fun of it along the way. On the flip side, is there anything that competing at this elite level taught you that nothing else really could have?
Definitely. Definitely. I learned a lot from being an elite competitor. I would say the most obvious one is being able to perform under pressure. If you're
Mm,
trained to a certain level and you're just especially with skating and other sports too. It's but skating in particular, you train for hours and hours on end, and only 5 minutes count. Whatever happens in that 5 minutes is that's the only thing that the judges care about. And I think I really throughout that process, and even now as I'm working, I've really learned how to perform well under pressure. And I've
mhm,
noticed that when there's like like a higher pressure situation. So let's say I'm in a therapy session with a couple and there's like this really hard tension in the air, tension where you can like almost cut it with a knife, like that feeling. That's the
mhm,
times that therapy is like the most effective. That's when I'm pulling out all the clinical interventions that I've learned throughout my time at the Family Institute, throughout my time practicing. That's when that's when couples that's when I think my my work as a therapist is the most effective. It's those times when it's really there's a lot of pressure in the room. I
Yeah.
also feel like time management. I've gotten really good at time management. As you can tell from when I was younger, there was a lot of sacrificing my time, managing all of the skating stuff with school. I've gotten really good at scheduling time for all the things that are important to me. And recently, I've learned to also schedule time for myself too. And so that's something that I'm really working on. And definitely resilience. Resilience, learning and growing from mistakes. As an athlete, you compete, you get your results, you come back to the ice rink maybe like a day or two after competition, and what you'll do is you'll review the what happened in competition, right? Sometimes there's like a technical mistake, sometimes it's, oh, you kind of missed like an artistic part in your program, and we can work on that. And I've really taken that skill of like, what went well, what can I work on, and I've really applied it to schoolwork, to clinical work, to other aspects in my life.
I
And
guess
I think
being
that
open to
basically.
feedback is a big one,
Mhm.
right? I mean, not everybody develops that muscle as strongly. And if you're going to be an elite athlete, you better, because you're just going to get lots and lots of feedback. Otherwise, you can't be there.
Yeah, and I think now that I'm thinking about it, another such an important skill that has been so helpful for me as a person and as a clinician is having really strong mind body connection. And so
Mm.
being able to learn how to manage your nerves, understanding like, oh wow, I'm feeling really nervous for this competition, and understanding like, oh, where am I feeling it in my body? What do I do about it? Having that such strong mind body connection really paid off in the long run, because now, let's say I'm feeling upset about something, really quickly I'm able to understand, like, hey, where is my anger coming from? And being able to
Mhm.
recognize in your body, like somatically, where these emotions are residing is such a great first step in regulating your emotions, which is a really important skill to have if you're um, going through stress in your life, if you're going through a relationship, and especially if you're a therapist, having really good understanding of how your emotions work in your body is so crucial.
Yeah, Palmy, that's so interesting to hear the applications of your elite athletic experience to being a therapist, especially for, our listeners, when you see an elite athlete performing, you know, you're probably thinking, wow, they are so good at figure skating. They're so good at performing under pressure in the ice rink. And also, as a clinician now, you are so well equipped to handle those moments of tension. And you have this really powerful integration of both your athletic experiences and your mental health experiences. So I'm really curious, was there a moment as an athlete that first lit that spark for your interest in the mental health and therapy world?
Yeah, I would say that I was very drawn to the mental health aspect of sports ever since I was very, very young. Because when you're at the ice rink, you kind of see all these people interacting around you, right? Whether that's this other skater and their coach, whether it's this another coach and their parent, and this skater and their parent. And it's very interesting because I've been in the skating world at least before I retired. It was like 15 years. So 15 years of me being in the same ice rink, watching all these skaters start, improve. Some people kept going, some people stopped midway, and it really got me thinking, huh, what is it about like all these interactions in the ice rink that like get these kids, like other skaters, to like stay versus not stay? What actually got me to stay? So it started from there. And then when I was like 16, 17, I was going through a lot of bodily changes. And as a result, I really struggled technically as a skater. Your body changes, and as a result, you kind of have to adjust your technique. Um, I
Mhm.
experienced a lot of mental blocks, and I was so lost. I didn't understand why my coaches were trying their best to help me, but they're not trained mental health professionals. So they were just like, I don't know how to help you. I'm sitting here like, what's happening? I feel great before I get on the ice. Why am I like, why can't I do this, right? And so that also got me when I was in high school to really read more about like how do I get over mental blocks. And I'm this is just like very typical like internet style research. So I really tried very like just very curious about like what was happening in my body. I'm like a very curious person. I'm always trying to understand what's going on in my head, what's going on in my body. And then I came to college. I went to college at Michigan State, go green. Um, and I think that's where I was not at home anymore and I was really with myself and I was a psychology major. I was really starting to think about like, this intersection is intriguing me. That's kind of where I was at. Where I got into like the Masters of Science in Marriage and Family Therapy program is my interest in like seeing how like all these people in the ice rink interact and how that impacts sports performance as a whole combined with I did like a shadowing internship at a teaching hospital in Thailand and I saw a clinician. I was very fortunate. It was a teaching hospital, so I was able to sit and observe a couple family therapy, like a few of them, family therapy sessions. And I just thought to myself, wow, like in order to really not fix, I'd say, in order to alleviate some of these emotional issues or like other issues around you, it's really not just focusing on me, right? It's not just about me. It's really about working with what you have in your system, whether that's the environment you're in, the relationship you have with yourself, the people around you, right? Your family. How does your family interactions impact you? How does your friendships impact you? And all of that come in and create who you are. And I think that's what really drew me into like the systemic aspect of mental health.
Mhm.
And that's what brought me into the marriage and family therapy field.
Yeah. And continuing with that on this theme of therapy, for listeners who are unfamiliar with the concept of relational therapy, could you explain that in simple terms? And, if someone's like, well, how is that not just talk therapy with feelings? What does that look
Mhm.
like?
Yeah. I get a lot of questions definitely from my family and people at home because when they think of therapy, they think of individual talk therapy, right? So relational therapy emphasizes working on the relationships. It's called relational therapy. So it can be relationships we have with ourselves, the people around us, and the environment that we live in, right? Um, we as relational therapists will utilize various systemic theories. Systemic theories are ones that kind of take in account like the relationships around you um, to help improve relationships. There's a lot of relationships in the explanation, and overall, it leads to improved well-being.
Yeah, that
So
makes
then
sense.
in the case of high performance sport, what kinds of relational or relationship injuries are you seeing most often? Is it parent athlete, coach athlete, teammate, self relation, romantic? What's happening there?
There is so much going on that I could go all day, but I'm gonna pull a few examples. There's so much, and I'm saying this as somebody who used to be an athlete herself. I stepped away, like I retired, I stepped away. I went to therapy school, and in therapy school, you do a lot of something called self of the therapist work. It's really reflecting on how do
Mhm.
your personal experiences show up in your work as a clinician. So a lot of work has been done and continues to be done for me. So let's take if you're a skater, right? You're young, you go to school. Something may have happened in school. Maybe you got in trouble with the teacher. Maybe you had a fight with a friend. Before you know it, and you're coming to practice, you're already kind of stressed out and distracted.
Mm.
That relationship carries on into the ice where you're kind of thinking, like, that kind of bothered me, but you didn't really get time to think about that, right?
Mhm.
Or,
Sure.
so that's one example. The skater in school. Let's take let's take the skater and a parent, right? Let's say a parent, this is like a very interesting cycle that I've kind of mapped out. So, no kid wants to do bad in any sport, right? No kid wants to do bad in any sport. Everybody wants to be good to a certain level. Like they want to be good, right? Parents, you love your kid. You want your kid to get anything and everything that they want. You want to support them in whatever way that they can. So let's say this kid is trying to land a jump and it's just like not working. A parent might think that, oh, I don't want my kid to pick up on bad habits because then it's just going to be, they're going to get hurt or something. So as a result, you'll find you'll find parents maybe standing next to the boards trying to coach their
Mhm.
kid of like,
Oh,
keep
yeah.
your left arm in front, jump higher. And it's not, and as a result, that stresses the child out. And in turn, it
Right.
starts to strain that parent child relationship when all of it is just, I want to help you, but I don't really
Sure.
know how to help you, right? Um,
Mhm.
let's take coaches into this equation. Let's say um, a coach and a parent don't really get along, right? Maybe a parent really doesn't understand where the coach is coming from. The student can feel that tension when they're in the
Oh,
lesson,
yeah.
and that
Mhm.
tension itself shows up in many different ways. Maybe they're just like bothered, they're stressed out. It manifests in so many different ways. That's just like a small chunk of what's happening when you're in the ice rink, right? Let's say let's say you're a retired athlete. Let's say you're a retired athlete. How does it show up in like other areas of your life? And I'm going to take this as a very personal example. A lot of athletes, if you're training at an elite level, you hold yourself to such a high standard. You kind of you have this very competitive spirit in yourself, which is awesome when you're striving for self improvement. However, you can't be in competition with your partner. You can't be
Yeah.
in competition with your partner. You can't be in
Mhm.
competition with your friends. Like sometimes that competitive nature ends up unintentionally hurting the other person, and it makes it difficult to nurture any relationship that you're in if you see your partner as like, this is my competition, like, I
Yeah.
need to be better than them, and you're not operating as like, hey, like we're two people, we're equal, we're nurturing this relationship to become something that is safe and happy for both of us. And so that's like one thing, that's like one of the many examples that I can think of how relationship that you have with yourself in sports carries on to outside of your life in, let's say, a romantic relationship.
Sure, and we see that a lot in Hollywood, 2 actors get married and
Yeah.
divorced and remarried and divorced and remarried, and on it goes, because when you're in the same field, it's challenging to not measure yourself against, the people around you, right? And
Mhm.
sort of start to define your self-worth that way. What about then, you mentioned parents standing at the boards, and this is something that I see a lot also from the parents. If they're not actually coaching from the sidelines, they certainly are doing all the recaps in the car on the ride home from a game, which doesn't always land very well. If you could rewrite the job description of an athlete parent, anything in
Mhm.
particular you would add or remove?
I would definitely very much emphasize you're very first and foremost a parent, and this is your child,
Mhm.
right? Your job as a parent is to create a safe space for your child to grow and learn, make mistakes, understand those mistakes, and then move forward from them. It's very important that parents become this safe. The word safe is so important to become the safe space for your child where if something happens, your child needs to be able to come to you. And when you're pursuing something with such high pressure, such as sports, elite sports, right? Having a parent who a child feels so comfortable being able to come back and say, hey, I had a really bad day of training and I definitely got a lot of corrections from my coaches, and I'm feeling very down about myself. My self esteem is really low. Being a safe place for your child means, hey, it's life. Thanks for letting me know. Why don't we go get ice cream and we can talk about it if you want to. You don't want to talk about it? It's okay. Let's take our mind off of that. We'll come back to it later. Thanks for telling me. Being able to have that open conversation with your child is so important in kind of bal- keeping them grounded and staying balanced between like striving for like I'm trying to be the best and falling back and knowing that hey, if I make a mistake, that's okay. I can step back, view it, learn and grow, and then I can get back to it.
Parents so often want to spare their children the pain, so they want to come in with the answers. But
Mhm.
no one can figure out how to do that jump for you. You have
Mhm.
to, I mean, yes, you have a coach, but you're the one who has to land it, and your body has to
Mhm.
figure that one out. So tough.
Yeah.
Sorry, Liam, go ahead.
No, that's all right. I think I was going to say that for any listeners right now who are parents of athletes, I think that is such great advice from Palmy to be the person that takes your child out for ice cream when they need that. I think it can be especially tempting when, as a parent, you are really knowledgeable about a sport. You know, you have that itch
Yeah.
to just go
Mhm.
right in on the
Mhm.
analyzing whatever was going on. But yeah, I mean, I think that is such a valuable role to part of the description of being an athlete parent. And then on the other hand, you have coaches. What is one actionable thing you wish every coach did differently tomorrow? If you could just like that change one thing for coaches.
Mm. This is something that I'm also really working on for myself as a coach for young athletes, for young skaters in the Chicago area, um, is really using it's a feedback method that well, I learned it, I heard about it when I was in school here. It's called like the sandwich method. And so it's like you put a praise in front, you add like a constructive feedback in the middle, so that's like the meat of the burger, and then you put the bun underneath of like, hey, but you did a good job. And so I think if there's one thing that would be awesome for coaches to do is to, well, one, acknowledge that, what they did. There is a part of it that is good. And then after that, provide young athletes with like a corrective statement, right? So instead of saying, don't don't let's see. Um, don't
Well,
drop
one I
your
heard
guard.
recently
Let's say,
was
yeah.
your skills
Mhm.
suck. Your shot sucks.
Oh,
And it's like,
That's
well,
brutal. Oh my
it's brutal.
gosh.
that's
And what do you do
brutal.
with that?
Yeah.
There's no
And so
correction. It's not
yeah, so
constructive.
I'm thinking, yeah, like let's say like, oh, like that jump was bad. Okay. why was it not great? Was there something that they did that was good? Maybe it wasn't a great jump. I've had a student before. She went in and I was like, I don't know if she can do this. This is like really weird setup. She pulled in the jump and it was a really wonky landing, but she stood. And I was like, wow. She came back and she was like already correcting. She was already correcting herself. She was like, I
Yeah.
definitely went around. I was like, wait a minute. Hey, there was like a lot of people. You were like really distracted and you somehow made it work. And that's something that needs to be celebrated and needs to be recognized. You made a situation that shouldn't have happened. You made it happen, and that's really awesome. Now, for the next time that you do it,
Yeah.
would it be
Yeah.
okay that you set it up a little bit more, maybe more round, maybe you set it out a little bit more, think that you're going to the right side? I try to give my students very specific corrections so that it's actionable, right? So then they can go back and think, oh, okay, for the next one, I'm trying to jump more. I'm thinking visually that I'm going to try to jump more towards my right. I'm going to try to keep my left arm up. Having that very like tangible feedback um, really keeps the student one focused in the lesson and and it gives them guidance of like, okay, this is what I have to do.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting too, right? Because each athlete might need a different verbal cue for how to
Mhm.
approach something. It's just like different kids learn differently with different explanations. So some just make sense and some don't. So,
Yeah.
yeah, really interesting. What about athlete families? Anything in particular you feel that families misunderstand most frequently about the difference between mental health and mental toughness?
Great question.
Mm. Great question. Before you move forward, Carla, would you be able to explain to us like what mental toughness is?
Well, it has to do with a certain amount of grit and perseverance and resilience, right? That essentially it really is somebody who embodies the growth mindset. If you think about some of the greats in any sport, but I like to, being a Chicagoan, reference Michael Jordan, and he was just relentless, and it did not phase him one iota any shot that he missed because it really was about the ones that he made, right? And
Mhm.
that ability to go and practice, 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 and be relentless, and even the loss of a game didn't really matter because he put everything at the front end. He put all the training in so that he could trust his training, and if there was a loss, it was just he had a formidable competition. And if you
Mhm.
lose to a formidable competition, there's nothing to be ashamed of, right? It's when you beat
Mhm.
yourself in a contest that is the most
Mhm.
problematic. So that's how I think about mental toughness, is that resilience. But of course, we hear about coaches and parents who yell at their kids. Sometimes we
Mhm.
hear them all the way down the hall yelling at their kids, and I'm not sure that that's always the way to build the mental toughness or mental health, for that
Mhm.
matter.
I Yeah, I definitely very much agree that the individuals who I've met in my whole life, and this is not just in sports, it's like in every single aspect of my life that I've met, the people who have the like the strongest mental toughness are people who are able to reframe mistakes or negative experiences as learning opportunities and really embodying that growth mindset. And then to take it another step, the people who have really understood it, balance between pushing themselves versus resting, right? Especially
Mm,
when you're
Yeah.
an athlete, you're so laser focused, you're driven. And I know this because I was that skater who, if I couldn't do a jump, I would spend a whole hour doing it again and again and again and again and again and again, right?
mhm.
I never took breaks. It doesn't even matter at that point what type of mindset or whatever I was having. I was so focused on like trying to get that jump that I think at a certain point I don't think I even know what I was doing, right? And so
Mhm.
part of mental toughness is pushing yourself, right? Of like, hey, Today's just like it's not working. It's okay. We're gonna try to
Yeah.
figure it out. One, two, three, unpack it, do it from a different angle, do some walkthroughs, we can break it down. And then at some point you need to value your mental health of like, hey, today I did as much as I could and it
Mhm.
doesn't work, but it doesn't define who I am. Just because I can't land this jump today or I can't do this skill today doesn't mean that
Mhm.
I can't do it tomorrow, next week, next month, or I can't do it ever again. You didn't lose a skill. It's just today you had a bad day. And it's okay. This is where you
Well, it's
take a step back and you take a little break. That's where the mental health
yeah.
aspect comes in.
I love
I
that.
think that rest piece is so important. Even Sulianov, a Russian sports scientist, many published papers. My favorite quote of his is "Rest is a meaningful exercise." Right? You,
Yeah, that's
when
great.
that fatigue sets in, at some point those jumps are going to be dangerous. Right?
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
say this as an adult skater who I used to be a competitive athlete just like many of the young kids that are, trying to pursue elite sport, trying to be in the elite competition. Having that having a break was so crucial in how I showed up at the ice rink. Very very
Mm.
much so. My coaches at some point they started to notice um that the best days that I tend to skate is between about Mondays to Wednesdays, with Tuesday, Wednesday being my like peak. That's like the days where I'm like
Mm,
very focused. I'm like um I know where my feet is right under me. I'm feeling very comfortable in my skates. And if you think about it, I take a break, like a very full day of break every Sunday. I do nothing. I'm sleeping, I'm maybe doing light stretching. Um and I come back and that rest is what really resets my brain if I had a bad week of training. It resets my brain and I think, "Huh, that's okay. That happened last week. We're going to leave it there. This week is a new week. We can try again." And it really kind of sometimes like taking a little step back, the way that I love this metaphor that like my mom um came up with. um she says like sometimes it's like you're pulling like a bow and an arrow. You're not digressing back. You're not improving, right? Sometimes you need to take a little break. You're stepping back so that you can launch even farther.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
that's really how I view my rest and recovery period, like the days that I'm off. When I was training, or now that I'm an adult, I don't skate as much anymore. So like the days that I'm really off, I really take it as like, okay, this is like me resetting, resting, recovering, so that I can go back and really show up as my best version of myself the next day.
In addition to rest, are there other daily micro practices that really protect an athlete's mind long term? Or anything even from the relational sphere you would highlight?
Mm. I definitely mentioned the idea of staying grounded and how I had like I'd say like a very normal childhood where I got to go to school. So being able to incorporate aspects of that, being able to go to school, spend time with your friends, maybe have like a ritual where you have like a family dinner. I think those are things that keep an athlete grounded and know that like, hey, there's more to life than just the sport
Mm,
itself. And
yeah.
then what really helped me set myself up for success in a training session is um I had like a list. It was like a loose list, so it wasn't like strict, because if it was strict then I would just be too stressed. But it was like a loose list of things that I enjoyed doing, that helped me put that helped kind of put me in this mind space of like, okay, I'm ready to be focused on the ice. I'm warming up my body. I feel ready. Um I feel like mobile. I'm ready to put in the hard work. And that might be, you know, listening to music that you like. I listen to like I had like not these headphones, but like definitely these ones on every time before I skated because I think it just puts me in one a good mood, two in a really good headspace where like okay, I know that I'm going to go skate. These are the things I'm going to do. I'm walking through some of the things off the ice. I'm warming up, getting myself ready and that itself really can be something that is very calming for your mental health and it gets you ready for like, okay, I'm ready for training today.
Yeah. And yeah, I really that really resonates with me. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners right now are wanting to be in your shoes down the road. And for someone whose
Mhm.
Everest is to become who you are today, what would you say is the non-negotiable instruction?
I I really live by this message now and I say this as a clinician. um I really believe that happy healthy people create strong athletes, right? Well,
Mhm.
strong anything. You can replace that last word with strong actors, strong students, strong athletes in our case, right? This encompasses more than just the physical aspect. This is not about just you being injury free. That is part of it. That is a very big part of it. But it's also about the mental health aspect, right? Being grounded, knowing how to manage the anxiety, the nervousness that comes when you're doing the sport, managing all these expectations, and the social aspect, knowing that you have people who support you, people you can fall back to when you're not having a good day. I think that those three aspects work together to create a happy, healthy person, which then creates a really great foundation for a strong athlete or performer.
Wonderful. And what about now, Palmy, other than getting your license figured out, what's your Everest? What's next for you that you're working on?
Yes. I have definitely been doing a lot of things. I have been working on a little project, which stay tuned because it's something that I've been really excited about. Me and along with two other amazing mental health professionals who were also former figure skaters,
Oh,
we've
wow.
um, we've gotten together to create this little seminar about fostering healthy communication and like understanding communicating with ourselves and other people in the ice rink for skaters, parents, and coaches. So like that is something
Mm,
we're in the final stages. We're like finalizing the presentation right now, and hopefully we're gonna be able to push it out soon. So definitely very much keeping my fingers crossed for that. And
exciting. Yeah.
also I after a lot of consideration, I have decided to return back to skating on top of coaching. I've returned back
Wow.
to skating in a way, in a more lighthearted manner. So I'll be doing like adult level competitions. We're doing showcase. I've created like a very much more like realistic goal of like, um, my goal is very much to kind of like look at skating from a different perspective and really show myself that hey, it's not about the jumps. And I've been really working on the choreography, the performance, the musicality, the artistry, and making my skating more complete, I would say. So
Yeah.
those are like the two things that I've been really working on, and so been very excited for that.
Well, that's awesome. Can't wait to see some of that. That's amazing. Good for you.
Hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, that is really exciting. And Palmy, our last question for you, where can people learn more about your work or reach you?
Yeah, definitely. So I am currently practicing at a private practice called Empowered Connections Counseling. And so if you're interested, you can check out our website. Check out our Instagram at ECC Chicago. There will also be my profile on the website that you can also check out. And if you have any questions and you just want to chat and connect, feel free to shoot me an email at palmy at empoweredconnectionscounseling.com, and I'd be happy to connect with everybody from there.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, Palmy.
Hmm.